Alright everybody, this is Eternal Blade here and welcome back to the tutorial. So jumping right in, today our first task is going to be an attempt to build the little cushion-like things on the back of the bed here. So it should be pretty simple. So let's dive right in and just ignore the lights for now. I was just sort of playing with some stuff in the background, but none of the physical modeling has changed. One thing I did do though is I selected the whole scene and just scaled it up just to make it a bit bigger because it was a bit troublesome to work with. So yeah, I did do that. Alright, so let's take our pre-existing thing we have here, a little back piece, and just sort of select everything. Alright, and let's what do we want to do? Let's attach it. Attach it to an object, that's fine. Okay. And now we can select this, and let's just isolate selection. Alright, so now let's just grab the border here and cap it. Okay, so we've got a full polygon. And now let us apply a turbo smooth modifier to it. We'll give it 2. And now let's clean up the edges here. So basically, what we need to do is select those edges. Oops, my bad. That edge and that. I'm holding shift and double clicking, so I select all the edges here on the outside. And then let's, I don't want to do this. We'll try chamfering it a little bit. And giving it a fairly small chamfer as we want a pretty well-defined edge here. Okay, let's see what that does for us. Alright, so that looks better. So next what we need to do is, let's see, click on the line here, press Z, and I Alt double clicked, or Shift double clicked, and let's do a connect. We will slide this kind of towards the edge here. Alright, grab these now, Shift double click, connect. We're going to make 2 of these, bring the slide to 0, and we're going to bring the pinch out so we get these nice sharp corners here. Alright, let's see how's that looking. Well, it's looking a little better. Okay, but still not quite sharp enough for me. So now what we need to do is, let's see, we need to grab let's see, it's going to be these lines. No, let's think about this for a second. We probably want to use a swift loop here, I think. Well, it's not going to quite get us what we want, is the problem. What do we want to do? We can use a quick slice where we slice it like so, which would probably work. We'll see. Okay, then let's do one sort of this way. Let's see what that did for us. It definitely worked. Alright, we're actually going to abandon this and just start with a box. I think we probably should have done that a while ago. So let's just create a very similar sized box. Okay, and convert to an editable poly. And the reason I'm doing this is the geometry of the other one was just not what I wanted. And starting from box, you have a lot more control over the entire thing. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's delete the old thing we have. Oops, be careful. Well, actually, that's fine. Delete the old thing and isolate the new piece here. Alright, so here we go. Now let's apply a turbo smooth. Okay, so we get kind of a similar result as we had before. Alright, and then now all we need to do is let's define try to think about how I want to do this, because the back needs to be a very small extrusion here. So just get a very small extrusion, okay? And that will make the back sort of flat. And the sides need to be, let's do a connect. We'll make it 2, and we'll give the sides a sort of, we'll pinch it outward. About 99. Connect. And 99 should be good there. So now we should have a perfect box. Good. Now what we can do is grab this and I believe this will work. So grab this, connect, and bring the pinch in a bit. Okay. And grab this, connect, and bring the pinch out a bit. Grab this front polygon here and just bring it out a tad. So the goal is to sort of curve, as you can see, the outside to give it the effect of like a, you know, a pillow piece or something like that. All right, and there we go. That should work perfect for what we need. So let's end isolation mode, and we can simply drag this back into position here, just to where it's almost touching. Alright, and let's delete the other pieces we had, and simply copy this over a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe. Alright, and there we go. That looks pretty perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and say that there's probably, oops, my bad, I'm moving some random things over there. Yeah, there's probably a 5th one on this side, so we're just going to copy it over as well. Okay, and let me just make sure it's good. There we go, perfect. Now, I think I'm just trying to see if we can get away with one. Man, that thing's going crazy. Here we go. With one subdivision, I think we can. I don't think there's a big difference between this and this, so we're just gonna bump these down a bit so we don't use quite so much of our polygons here. Okay, perfect. Those look great. Just make sure you save your work, and I like to save in different iterations. We're on iteration 4 here. Alright, and let me just select these and make them gray so we know they are ready for texturing. Alright, I figure we're only 10 minutes in, so we can do a little more. Let's actually work on, I'm going to say, this dresser here. Now in the picture, the only thing we see actually is just sort of that little bit of a crevice. So I'm going to assume it's just, let me actually Google here real quick. Nightstands. I'm going to assume it's just a single drawer with sort of legs. So something along the lines of this. So just, you know, it's going to have top, a single drawer, and some legs, and maybe a little bottom piece. Alright, so I'm not even going to really look at the image. I'm just going to stare at what our little reference image is. So we bring this back to where we are. And zoom in on it. Alright, and I'm just going to start. So first I'm going to actually, I can probably utilize this box. Well, I'm going to start a new box because I don't really know if that's actually a box. So first I'm going to want it probably pretty square, so we're going to do 30 by 30. Okay, bring it up. And let's just look at this in our camera view here. Do not want to move that camera. Not a good idea. Okay. Alright. Now let's... Alright. Height selection. I don't want to see any of those things. Where did the box we go? I guess we missed the box. Okay. So let's build a box. Oh, there it is. What did we say? 30 by 30. It is a tiny little box. This must have been the thing we built earlier. Back. There it is. Okay, so let's hide the selection, hide the selection. I'm sure you guys were thinking, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? But in reality, I can't actually tell what I'm doing before I do it, so it does make it a bit more difficult. Alright, so we'll just sort of, there we go. So now we can do maybe 110 by 110, should be a good size. And 4 looks pretty good for the height. Alright, so now we can delete the old box and go into perspective, Alt-W to make it full screen, and let's make some stuff happen here. Alright, and let's grab this and convert it to an editable poly. And then we will use the bevel command and just kind of make some cool little shapes here. So you can just sort of do whatever. Make cool shapes. You can kind of come in, come out. Alright, we'll do a kind of a big one. And a little one here. And then maybe a big one, and then a small thing here. Okay, and then turbo smooth. Alright, and then we need to, let's extrude the bottom. Okay, and then let's simply isolate selection just to make our lives a little easier here. Select everything and then deselect the main lines and chamfer. And what this will do is just sort of make the edges nice and crisp. So turbo smooth. Now we'll have very nice edges. Okay, and let's actually need a few more adjustments. So those are rounding. Why are these rounding? I feel like these shouldn't be rounding after that. Let's try making this smaller. Okay, and then what we'll also do is grab this, connect to, and just not slide, but pinch these puppies out. 99, and go this way, connect with 99. Right now we should have a nice hard edge. There we go, perfect. And looks great. Okay, and it seems probably a bit high, so we're just gonna shrink it down a bit. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is make a box, I guess, and we can use auto grid and just sort of make a box. This is going to be our drawer. So our main thing was 110 by 110. Let's make this one 100 by 100. Okay. So 100, and we'll give it a height of 30. So now what we can do is align it on the top viewport. So let's see. Put it right about there. And then that looks pretty good. And this looks pretty good. It is a bit, it seems like off center, which is odd. So we're going to recreate it. I don't know why it was off center, it was kind of strange. But okay, here we go. Now we're good. So we can just put it right up against there, center it there, and go over here, and center it here. Alright, perfect. Now let's go back into our perspective and let's end isolation mode. So this part is basically going to be the front. Isolate selection. And let's start sculpting. Not really need to do anything actually. So shift drag this. We're making a copy. Rotate it using A for angle snap. Rotate it 90 degrees. Press W and then rotate it so it's right sort of at the edge here. And then let us affect it, so we just shrink everything. What we're basically doing is making a little drawer here out of our pre-existing geometry. It's always good to sort of use what you can. Okay, and then just shrink it way down. Perfect. And there we go. Now we've got basically a nice little drawer, and we can do a cylinder. Okay, and we don't need nearly that many height segments. Convert to an editable poly, and let's just make a quick little, actually we're going to do, keep it a cylinder and increase the height, decrease the radius. Alright, maybe increase the radius a bit more. That looks pretty good. And drag it over. Okay. Press E, rotate it 90 degrees. Increase the height a bit. We're just making kind of a modern looking handle here. And then drag it out. increase the radius of this one just a bit. Alright, there we go. And we're locked. So control click, go into your top viewport here, and simply center it. Okay, go into your front, and center it up and down. Alright, and we're actually going to bring the whole thing down just a bit. Perfect. Alright, there we go. Now we've got a nice drawer. Now for this box, just select all the edges, chamfer, and just give it a small chamfer to break up the edge. Okay, and then you can give it a turbo smooth, just one iteration, should be perfect. Alright, that will work just perfect. Next, let's build another box here, just sort of on the ground. Alright, this will be a 100 by 100 by 5, maybe 4, and line it up here. Basically want to line it up exactly with the other box we have. Alright, and then go to the left-hand viewport. That looks good. And this will basically be on our floor. There we go. Perfect. Now what we need to do is build a box. Okay, and we'll make this is going to be one of our legs. So we'll just sort of bring it over here and bring it down. Okay. Let's just judge the size of it. We are oddly not centered. What are we moving? Left. There we go. I knew something was strange. Alright, and these are going to be sort of a big legs that attach. Alright, that's actually not bad. And let's make them square, so we're going to do 13 by 13. Alright, that should work. And actually, let's make them a little more beefy. Let's give them 15 by 15. Okay. And just align it. And align it. Convert it to an editable poly. And take the things over here and just bring them down. Okay, next let's end isolation mode, because what we need to do is make sure these things don't go into the floor. Alright, so this is going to have to go up a bit, just a little bit above the floor. And then this will bring it so it matches just perfectly at the floor. Okay, and then we're going to grab all these vertices here and just decrease the size of the bottom leg a bit so it sort of tapers down just a bit. Select all the edges, chamfer, and give it a nice small chamfer. Okay, and then you can apply a turbo smooth to it, just one. And now we can copy this leg to all four of our let's see, I want to make sure it actually goes to the floor. Yeah, I guess it does. Seems sort of low to me. It is low. I knew it was low. Okay, so let's select everything here. And the leg. And just bring it up to... Let's sort of here. So it should be at almost the exact same height as the bed, maybe a little bit lower. Okay, that will work. And this thing is probably needs to go up a bit. There we go. Grab this and bring these legs down to the floor level. Okay. And then let's place these legs to where they fit just perfect. And grab that, and let's actually move them in just a bit, and then back just a bit from the front, because they can't be perfect. You don't want anything to be perfect in your models, and it just looks too strange. Alright, there we go, and I believe that would basically finish off our desk. Oops, we forgot this little piece here. So let's just grab that and bring it up. Bingo. There we go. So let's just is this how I want it to look? No, that's not how I want it to look. Let's press 1 and let's just bring it in halfway there, halfway there, halfway there, and halfway there. Now that's much better. Kind of like the legs actually have something to stand on. Let me see here. I'm just googling those pictures of nightstands again to see how they do the bottom leg. And yes, this is exactly what it looks like. Okay, we're good. Also on this bottom leg here, just Control A, chamfer. Give it just a little chamfer. Alright, you don't need to turbo smooth that at all. Well, let's just save this. Okay, so let's grab all of our pieces here. And those three. And let's change them to gray. And then we'll group and call this nightstand. Perfect. So now we can probably take the whole light bulb and the nightstand, and if we go into the top here, we'll probably just copy it over to the other side of the bed. Okay, it won't make much of a difference, but I'm sure that's what it looks like in reality, and you can't really see it in the render, but it might help with some of the reflections and such. So you can see we're actually doing pretty good. Our room is definitely coming along. So that'll be it for this part. I will see you in the next part. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave comments below, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.